Okay, section 2 of the demo goes into, this is the first time we're going to show them, or really work in Anger, the normal interface for ServiceNow, and that is not the end user portal, but the more traditional left-hand nav, right-hand content model. This section it has the most content in it. This is also most of the heavy hitter stuff. So this is one of the keys as a demo. You've got to nail section 2 here. Section 2, just by way of the contents, includes the homepage layout, and then all of your basic list functionality. So your filtering, your sorting, your querying, your list editing, and then ultimately ending up in your reporting, and then ultimately out to a scheduled report. Which is really the big kind of holy grail as far as the demo. So just as you're learning this stuff and as you're trying to figure out how to demo this better, just key on the fact that section 1 with the ESS portal is very cool and it's very slick and it's very different for them. Section 2, this is where you're going to win over everyone who's ever had to use the CAs or IBMs or BMC tools out there, because this is where we start to really win as a tool. This is where all of the differentiation starts to happen. And most of the other tools just simply can't do this kind of stuff. So if you need to be excited about anything in the demo, or as you're going through, you need to be able to convey, this is the coolest thing ever, this is the section you've got to do it in. You've got, especially when we start talking about list functionality, the list editing, the reporting, that's the big stuff that they've got to go wow at. This, by the way, generally wins over the demo already. So depending on how much time you spend in the end user portal, the intro in section 1, you're about 15 minutes into your demo. It's from minute 15 to a minute 25, which is the 10 minutes it takes to get through this section 2, plus or minus, is where you're going to win or lose them as far as the demo is concerned. The rest of this is basically fluff until we get all the way over to the workflow section, because incident, problem, and change, while really cool, is not nearly as cool as this stuff. So just keep that in mind. So let me go back to the home page, and I'll just kind of start and walk through essentially what I say as part of this. Quickly, a couple things to note. The Beth England user, the only modification I had to make for this, I demo off a nearly raw system for various reasons. The one change I did need to make, though, is I had to go in and give Beth the report global and the filter global roles, or filter admin, report admin, I've forgotten which. The reason for that is as we're demoing this, and as I'm creating filters as Beth, and as I'm creating reports as Beth, you need to be able to show them that you can optionally give her the ability to publish those to groups and to the world. And she also needs the ability to go up and schedule reports and publish reports just for demo purposes. So as long as you convey that's really a permissioned type thing, you can get away with the fact that you just granted her those roles manually. So anyway, here's kind of how it goes. So section 2, so now that we're on kind of the normal interface, before we actually start working the SAP Financials outage from the prior section, so from the ESS portal, Joe employee went in and said, hey, we got an SAP Financials issue. We as Beth are going to work that in just a moment. But before we do that, I want to show you some of the navigation capabilities and some of the basic layout of the tool that starts to differentiate ServiceNow from the rest of the world. I will start with a simple homepage concept. You would probably refer to these as dashboards in most other tools. For whatever reason, we call them home pages, but it's the same concept. It's a series of what we call gauges, or just little miniature reports that are going to display an arbitrary amount of information in various formats. Works the same way as every other dashboard on the planet, with a few exceptions that make it actually kind of cool. Number one, this is completely customizable by any user in the system, and so the users that have the access to have a home page can come into here. They're going to get a default one when they first log in, but as soon as they get the opportunity, they can pick up and literally just drag and drop things around, and you'll see I'm just picking up these gauges and moving them around as I see fit. And once I do that, once I start making changes to this, you'll note it converts itself. It's now called my ITIL homepage, and from this point until the end of time, this is now essentially mine. I haven't modified the global, but now I have essentially my own version of the global homepage that I can now add and remove all the data that I want. So for instance, if I want the news ticker to be up here at the top, I don't want all items by escalation, so I'll just remove that with the X in the upper right. Let me move my work over, and then maybe I want to add some content. Let me remove this all incidents by state. Let me click Add Content here. And based on the security rules in the system, I'm going to be able to go to gauges and say, okay, for the incident table, give me all incidents by assignment. Let me put that on the left-hand side. And then incident throughput for this month, let me put that on the right-hand side. And hopefully you get the idea here. I can just arbitrarily add any number of gauges that I want to and get this thing looking and feeling the way I want. Now, why would you want to work out of here? Well, everything in here is fully interactive. And by that I mean it's not just a display mechanism. You can actually click on all this stuff. So if you want to see all of the incidents that have a category of software, you find the software slice, in this case yellow, and you click on it. And it takes you to a list of incidents that all have the same category of software. Go back to the home page. Same thing with the news articles. If you want to click on an article, or if you want to click on the critical incidents number here, all of that will just pull open the data for you. And what's nice about that is not only is it interactive, but of course you can set an auto refresh. So you can put this up on an external monitor in the NOC or the CIO's office somewhere, and he or she can sort of have this thing automatically updating itself and letting them know, hey, real time, this is where we currently sit in the tool based on the data that you're displaying here. So very useful from a data collection standpoint. Now, if you're an incident person, if you're on the service desk, generally you're not going to be working from a home page. You're going to be working from more of a list of work. This is just a little bit more appropriate for that type of interface. But if you're a help desk lead, a manager, any IT executive or whatnot, it is possible that you can actually just kind of live and die in your home page and never leave there. All right, the second set of stuff here, and this is where ServiceNow really starts to stand out as a tool. So if you get nothing else out of the entire hour-long demo, pay attention to the next 2 or 3 minutes, because all of the stuff you're going to see now, you just simply will not see in any other tool on the planet today. And we're very proud of it. And in fact, once you start using it, you'll find it to be very frustrating that a lot of the other tools like Outlook and a few other ones that you use on a regular basis don't do some of this stuff. So let me just start out with all the basic stuff, like filtering and sorting. If you want to sort a column, and by that I mean you want to say, show me all of the incidents sorted A to Z by the number column. Well, all I have to do is right-click on the number column and say sort A to Z or sort Z to A. And based upon which one I select, you will note that the list will instantaneously shift itself, and that little arrow will indicate kind of which direction we're going. I can do the same thing without right-clicking. I can just simply click on the column header, and we will just assume that you want to do an A to Z, and then of course a Z to A after that, and give you the basic concept there. So nothing really to talk about, just kind of an easy, simplistic Microsoft Excel, if you will, type way of doing that. What about filtering? Filtering is one of the most important things in a tool, and it's important to note, everything I'm showing right now has nothing to do with incident management. Every list in the tool is going to be able to do this. A list of change requests looks and feels the exact same way as a list of incidents does, which looks and feels the exact same way a list of servers or users or change whatever you happen to have in the tool. Every list is going to work like this. So the consistency is there, and this is why you're going to need that kind of consistency, because if you're looking at a list of, in this case, just simply 39 incidents, so not a lot on the screen right now, but let me remove the filter there. We're up to about 560 now, and we're showing essentially every incident I have in the queue. In your business, you're going to end up probably hundreds of thousands or even millions of incidents eventually into the tool. How do I get from a list of millions of incidents down to 4 or 5 that I can work with very quickly? In most other tools, what they force you to do is open up kind of a blank search type form and then fill out half of an incident and click submit, and it'll go back and try to build the query in some sort of SQL language and return you the results. We went the opposite approach. We don't feel like you should have to build the entire query and then work it down. Why don't you just start with the basic stuff and work your way up? And so let me give you a good example of that. If you want to see all of the incidents that have a category of software, I don't have to go anywhere else in the tool. If I see one that has software, all I have to do is right-click on software and do show matching. And you'll note instantaneously I'm down from about 560 to about 130. All of them have the category of software. And one thing I would like you to note is up here at the top, this little breadcrumb built itself. And this breadcrumb is essentially going to be a cumulative total of all of the filters that are applied to this list. Right now there's just the one. It says category is software. But I can keep going. What if I don't want the ones that are close complete? Well, I'll right-click and do a filter out on close complete. So now I'm down to 21, and I'll keep going. Maybe I only want the priority ones, so I'll do a show matching on priority 1. and then I don't want anything assigned to ITIL user, so I'll filter out that, etc. And what you'll note again is we are continually shrinking the list within seconds and building my breadcrumb up top here. The breadcrumb is used really just as a reference. It can also be used to navigate. If you want to go back a couple levels, just click on one of the little blue icons there and it'll remove everything in front of it. Or if you want to kind of go in and build a really advanced filter, do that. Just click this little arrow to the left and you'll get kind of an iTunes playlist builder look and feel where you can go through and say, okay, category is one of software or inquiry or request, and it was created on this, where is it? This year. Clicking run, you'll see the same thing happens. I build my little breadcrumb, and then I get my sub list of data here. So very simplistic. You go from a list of millions of incidents, and very quickly you can go through and say, I want all of the non-closed software tickets displayed to me, and now I have my 21. Well, as easy as that might be, you may find that you actually don't want to do that every time for whatever reason. You're just that lazy and you just can't stand to spend the 5 seconds to build a filter. Well, how do you save these filters into the tool? What if you got one really complex? No problem. What you do is just pull down that little icon up top, get the filter looking and feeling the way you want, and then when you're ready, just click the Save button up there and say, this is my software non-closed. And you can publish it to yourself, or if you have the appropriate roles in the tool, you can actually publish this globally so everyone can access this filter. And how those filters work now is if I later come back into the tool and go to a list of all incidents, if I click on the incidents up here, you'll get this filters link, and filters will show you a kind of a superset of all of your filters, all of your group's filters, and all of the global filters, including, by the way, that one that I just generated a moment ago. And if I click on it, I instantaneously get my filter down. So notate, just kind of take a note of how easy it is to generate the filters. The right-click filter out, show matching, very cool. I wish Outlook had that. It doesn't, unfortunately. Very, very cool functionality to get to the data that you need to very quickly. So elsewhere in the list, what else can we do? Let me go back to my all incidents list here. Let me just get rid of the closed ones so we can modify some of this stuff. What if you need to edit some of the data on the screen? How would you do that? Well, in every other tool, let's common example. What if I need to take these top 3 incidents here that are assigned to David and assign them to someone else? How would you do that? Well, in every other tool on the planet, you would click on the first one, wait for the form to load, change the assignee, save, and come back to here, and then you would have to click on the second one, etc., etc. In our tool, it works just like Microsoft Excel. If you want to change some data, just double-click on the cell and start typing. And we'll give this to Beth. You can do multiple changes if you want. If you hold down the Shift key, I can actually drag and drop over a bunch of these columns and then say, okay, I want all of these switched, and I want them all assigned to Fred Luddy, and instantaneously we will go through and modify all that data for you. So not a lot to talk about. I don't want to belabor that too much. It works just like Excel, or as close as you can, and that's changing real-time data there in the background for you. If you change something that has a little bit of a business intelligence or dependencies on it, like category, subcategory is a common example. If I want to change the category, I double click on that. But what you'll note is it recognizes, hey, warning, you've got a dependency here. So if you change the category, we're going to force you to change the subcategory as well. And that sort of intelligence is just going to work for you. There's nothing for you to have to build there. Last thing I want to show before we get into kind of the reporting interface here is the notion of sort of flexibility of the tool, personalization. You are not stuck to this list. If this has too many columns or not enough columns, or it doesn't give you what it is you need to do your job, as an as a technician, and you'll note I am logged in as Beth. I'm not an admin. I'm just a normal technician here. I can click this little cog in the upper left-hand corner, and using what we call a slush bucket, I can take things from the left-hand column, which are the available fields that are not displayed, and from the right-hand column, which are the available fields that are displayed, and you'll note the order, number, color, state that matches the order of the columns up top. And I can start messing with this. I can say, you know what, I don't want category, subcategory, or maybe I want category, I don't want subcategory displayed. I don't need assignment group, but what I do need is my impact and urgency fields added. And I'll put priority right below those. And so with a simple little kind of slush bucket manipulation, you will note I now have my own version of this list, just like the home page. And from this point forward, this will now be mine until such time that I either change it back to the way it was, or I go in and check the reset to default button here. So why would that be important? Well, for obvious reasons. If you want to filter and search quickly on certain columns that aren't displayed, you're going to need them displayed so you can add them for yourself. If you want to manipulate data, you're also going to need them displayed on here. So that'd be another reason to do that. What about reporting? Reporting is another big thing. And again, like I said, this is one of the biggest standouts of the ServiceNow platform is the reporting engine. If you need to run a report in ServiceNow, you do not have to leave the data that you're trying to report on. So in most other tools on the planet today, if you want to run an incident report, you at best you have to leave this. You have to go to another section of the tool and try to build a report yourself. More often than not, you have to go talk to a reporting admin, put a request for it, have that person build it and publish it, and it takes about anywhere between weeks and months to get that ready to go. In ServiceNow, again, we went the opposite approach. We've tried to expose this to everybody as best we can. For instance, if you want to run a report on all incidents, let me get back to the all incidents by priority, simply right-click on the priority column and choose bar chart or pie chart. And in about 5 seconds time, it will munge together all of the data in the table that had been filtered or not, and give you a nice looking graphic that you can simply print off with this little print button in the upper right hand corner. Or you can use, just like you would a gauge, you can click on one of the slices if you want to use it for filtering. Or more importantly, if you want to actually make this report a little bit more customized to you, click this little plus in the upper left hand corner and utilize our reporting interface to start playing with this. So let me switch it to a bar chart. I actually want to sort it by category. Let me click run and see how that looks. Okay, starting to get there. Maybe I want to stack it by the assignment group. Click run report there. Start to get, okay, and that starts to look pretty good. And then because I'm going to throw this on my home page, let me make it a small sized one. There we go. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just quickly give it a name and say this is, all incidents by, what is the category? And then by assignment group. And then I'll just simply choose who I'm going to publish to. This is just like the filters. Is this going to be just for me? Is this appropriate to maybe the service desk group that I might be a part of? Or maybe this is important enough that the world might want to be able to run this report automatically. Either way you want to do it. And one last thing before I save it into the tool, the filtering notion. So you can actually go into here in the same way you filtered the list, you can filter this stuff as well. Instead of all incidents by category, you could say just show me this year's incidents with a simple filter addition. But once you got it ready to go, you click the save button in the upper section here, and then it's ready to go. So from this point forward, you now have a report that's been predefined, and you just simply go to your reporting engine here on the left-hand side and click View, and that'll take you right into your big list of reports there. More importantly, what if I didn't ever want to have to come to the tool again to get this report delivered to me? What if I wanted this, let me make this large actually, start making it look a little bit better. What if I wanted this delivered to me via email? Can I schedule this? Well, yes, you can. That little schedule button in the upper right-hand corner allows you to send this thing anywhere you want. So to review very quickly, from an incident list, I could get a very quick filtering of data. Once the data was filtered, I simply right-clicked on any one of the columns there and said, give me a report. I was able to then customize the report as a normal technician, service desk guy, desktop technician, whatever you are, without any kind of training, really. You just kind of figure out how it works using all the advanced or basic reporting engines that we have, trend charts and pivot tables and that sort of thing. And then once I saved it into the tool and published it, now I can click the schedule button, and within about 2 or 3 minutes time, you can now sort of end this thing by saying, you know what, I want Fred Luddy and the service desk and the hardware teams to get this emailed to them every week on Friday at 9 o'clock in the morning. You give it a subject, here's your report. You give it a body, just like it is going to be an email, so just whatever you want the email to say. You choose the outbound format. Is it a PDF? Is it an Excel spreadsheet? Do you want a PNG type file, etc.? And when you're ready to go, you click Submit. And from this point forward, every Friday at 9 o'clock, every single person in those groups, including Fred, will now get an email saying, here is your report in an attachment type format with a link to come back into here. You can also add these to your home pages. So if you want to give them the capability to do that, you can allow them to make these as gauges. Generally, it's only administrators that do that, but you can delegate that access out. If you want people to be able to make arbitrary gauges that people can add to their own home pages, so be it. Up to you. Last thing from a data perspective on the kind of the section 2, the incident list or the kind of the list functionality is exporting, and people commonly ask about this. Can I export this data? Yes. Any list, you can just simply right-click at the top like anything else. The same place you did the sorting, the same place you did the reporting, you can click the export button down here at the bottom and choose one of the outbound formats. Excel and CSV are self-explanatory. PDF, there's actually two different kinds. Portrait and landscape, that's a portrait and landscape version of the list. Detailed portrait and landscape is one sheet of the list, and then it's also going to be one page for every single document, every form represented here. So for instance, in this case we have 39 incidents represented here. That's going to be a 40-page document, one page for the list, and then 39 pages for each one of the incidents that's represented there as well. So keep in mind those can get fairly large. So, and as far as before we get into incident management, that's it. The reporting interface, the home pages, and the list functionality gives you a ton of capability and a ton of flexibility, and really just works with you instead of against you to try to facilitate you working through your day a little bit easier.